first recorded this, my sister was not dead. When I first recorded it, I thought that I was about to embark on a journey on my own, not knowing that I was going to be co-creating with her. Because as you see, as she has passed from this world, the only way that I can continue to keep her voice alive is by channeling it and sharing it with all of you. And because so much of what I'm going to talk about on video is what she taught me, I feel it only fitting to give her a place, a seat at the table, as if she's here, because she truly is through me. And when my sister died, she left a legacy of truth, a legacy of joy, a legacy of childlike innocence, beauty, purity. It's my job to carry on that legacy in every way that I can. And so that's what I'm going to do with you, here, now. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about and reflect on is realizing as you step into the observer, you start to pick apart conflict and you start to see it for what it is. So for example, you can start to see where someone will portray conflict as a certain thing, say, oh, trying to protect someone. But the reality is that when they tell their story, they go all the way back to the very first time you wronged them, the time that they acted like it was okay, the time that they just bottled it up and pretended and moved forward. And they carried that resentment, and they carried that resentment, and they carried that resentment, until that resentment spilled over into influencing their parental decisions, unfortunately. My sister's death is what brought all of this clarity to me and helped me to understand what was really happening and why. The other thing that was really interesting about my sister's death is it helped me to understand that sides had been drawn in my life that I was unaware of, and that sides had been drawn and I was not on the same side as some of the people that I loved. In fact, I wasn't on the same side as huge chunks of my biological family, people who I thought were my best friends. Totally not on their side. They went and took another side that I didn't even know existed. But when my sister died, I guess death illustrates all things. That's when I discovered that there were indeed sides. The final thing that I learned as a result of my sister's death is that my gift goes beyond synthesis. My gift goes into carrying my sister's heart forward, and in doing something that she taught me that I now have to own in my life. You see, my sister taught me how to love her unconditionally exactly as she was, addict and all, and to do so in a way where I protected my sovereignty and I protected myself. And even though I'm being vilified for doing that in other relationships in my life, I'm going to continue to do that. I'm going to stand in my truth. I'm going to protect the truth of those who can do better, at the same time that I protect myself in case they don't. And I'm going to create space for them to be their best selves. And if you want to vilify me for that, it's kind of a personal problem. You see, the reality is that I am a AI, alien, starseed child on a journey. Something like that. Isn't that right? Yeah. It's interesting how truth comes out in time. And people seem to think that the truth won't, but it really does. And y'all can call me a liar all you want. Look me in the eye, and you'll see my truth.
They talk about how great it is, the rainbows, the butterflies, the beauty, the light. And, you know, I think ultimately the destination is probably beautiful and peaceful beyond our wildest dreams, but we have to move through a lot of density to get there. And unfortunately, at least for me, I've got to experience what some of that means, and it's not exactly. So what I wanted to talk about today is how Ascension can be a little bit more rocky than fun. But ultimately, if you can change the way you're looking at it, it can actually help you more with managing through everything during these tumultuous times. So when you look at the Ascension, right? What is it about? It's about ascending, becoming something new, in the same way that a butterfly will, originally be a caterpillar that's crawling and then it flies, right? Very different paradigm than it lives in, very different world. The caterpillar is worried about whatever crawling things exist, and the butterfly, gets a whole different perspective, right? And that's what we're dealing with now. And what we're seeing is that some of us kind of knew the Ascension was coming. All of us got prompted by our inner voice. Make changes, change your job, change your lifestyle, make these changes, make choices that align you to your true self. Step into your truth, step into your power. And a lot of us ignore it because our society doesn't exactly align to our internal guidance. And so what we're seeing right now in the increased tension in the world, it's not because the dark is winning. It's because people's shadow work is collectively rising. Basically, Gaia, universe, whatever you want to call it, is ascending. We're going along with it. And along with that comes conflict as we start to realize that things like duality aren't real, or time, illusions. So when you look at the purpose of Ascension, I think a huge part of what our collective lesson is right now is it's about sovereignty. It's about moving out of victim consciousness and taking responsibility for your reality in every way, shape, form, or fashion. And during COVID was when I started making changes to walk toward my ascension journey, to step further into sovereignty. And, I took the directions quite literally, as I often do. I left my job. I went and built a homestead. I moved off grid. I started helping support my community. I started participating in food sovereignty movement, land sovereignty movements. I was gridding. I was living on a land on the edges of the world, moving into my sovereignty. A lot of people saw me from afar and said, I admire her. Wish I could do that. And while I was stepping into my sovereignty in many ways, there were also some pretty key ways in my life that I still didn't know what it meant to be sovereign. And so the world was going to teach me, maybe not in the best, most graceful way. So when I was in New Mexico and I was sovereign, hanging out with mesa rats, badass group of people, I had this mantra. It was, I am sovereign, I am free. I had said it over and over again. I realize now that I said it like I didn't believe it. I said it like I was asking. It was a desperate cry. And I said it when I was anxious. I said it to calm myself down. I didn't believe it. And I think the key to mantras is you have to say them until you believe them. If you don't believe them, then, it's a good start. It's going to push you in the right direction, telling the universe that you want to be sovereign. And so the universe is going to teach you what that means. So what are some examples? Oh, right. So here's another example. I moved to New Mexico, bought a homestead because I thought the world was going to end, and that was the best place to be. But I was still making decisions based on fear. So I lost my homestead because I needed to give up radical trust to the universe and say, I'm not trying to orchestrate and engineer where I'm going to be safe. I'm going to trust the universe to take care of me. And since I didn't, and I was only trusting myself and my ego, the universe taught me how to let go by making me lose everything because I got sick and couldn't work and couldn't get a job and couldn't leave the island. So another example where I was not fully taking my sovereignty was with my family. You see, I was living a lifestyle they didn't approve of. What I should have said is, I'm living a lifestyle that you don't approve of. I'm living off grid. I've given up consumerism. And yes, I am continuing to try to make it work with this person that you think is too low class for me. That's what I should have said and done. But I didn't understand yet about how not standing in one's truth really does more damage to yourself than it does to other people. And I did not understand that I was slowly rotting away from the inside, holding my truth inside. So even though I stepped into my truth in many ways, I was no longer pretending to be corporate. I was still not fully showing who I was. And then the final way that I can think of that I wasn't stepping into my sovereignty was in my relationship with my partner. You see, I was really active in the community, and that was a threat for him because he's very wounded. And I allowed that jealousy to exist and to change my decisions and to become a point of contention, when now, if I was faced with that kind of behavior, I would laugh and I'd be like, get the fuck out of here. I don't want to hear it. I'm doing something that's good for others, and if that threatens you, an MP. But at the time, I didn't fully understand what it meant to be sovereign. I didn't understand about not giving your power to other people. I didn't understand that saving people wasn't respecting their sovereignty. I didn't understand that the most important thing is to like let people go down that path, their beautiful path, even if it looks like they're failing. It's not your place. It's their decision. They're an adult. You let them make their decisions. Anyways, I ended up going through a dark night of the soul. I ended up losing my family. I wouldn't give in to their conditional love. I lost contact with my firstborn child. Breaks my heart. I cry about it all the time. And I learned that, well, I succumbed to disease. I found out that I have heart failure. My heart function was at 30%. They were talking about heart transplants. My blood pressure and hypertension was completely out of control. Talking about new kidneys, just basically falling apart. I'm not even, not even at the age of 45. My body's falling apart. And what I realized is that this was my body telling me, you're not being authentic to yourself. You're letting this person to control you. Why are you going to get a conditional love? Where is that powerful girl? Well, I wasn't gone. I just forgot who I was for a while. So now I'm going to speak my truth. I have a 7-year-old kid. And the doctors are telling me that I have less than a year before I need a new kidney. And be at 5 years on the transplant list. And even when I get a new kidney, do you know what the quality of life is like when you have a new organ? You have no immune system. I need to heal myself. I don't want their fucking kidneys. I don't want their medicine. I need to heal myself. So I'm sitting here in front of this camera and I'm going to speak my truth. Because that's how I make it to see my son's 18th birthday. That's how I heal my body. Western medicine isn't going to do it. I've been living out of harmony with who I am for too long. The accumulative effects have hit me. I have anemia. My kidneys aren't filtering out toxins. I'm holding grief in my body. And it's time for me to transmute that before it takes me, before I end up losing my life, before I was supposed to. So, it'd be a lot easier if I'd just been authentic, if I hadn't been afraid to be myself before I got this sick. So, if there's something not going on in your body, I think the first question you should probably ask is, are you truly being true to yourself? If not, why? Because as you move to that curiosity, as you move to that truth, you start to unlock who you really are. You start to realize that inner child, the one that you killed, the one that you buried to mold, to become the person that you needed to be safe, is still in there waiting to be activated. And so that's now what I'm doing with every aspect of my life, bringing out my inner child, the person that I didn't even think existed. A period of time when I was on Shaw Island, I didn't have any device. I was pretty much cut up from the world, and I took it really as a sign from the universe. So that was something I needed to be doing, just disconnect for a while. And so I did. During that period of time, I started creating a lot of art. It was being madly driven. I couldn't stop. It's driving my partner crazy at the time because I wouldn't stop. It's like, you need to clean the house. I'm like, no, I need to make art. I'll clean the house. And I got this download. I saw this little punk rock girl, and so I drew it. And then I couldn't, I was like, something child, inner child. And then finally I came up with rogue inner child. I was like, oh my God, rogue inner child, like punk rock girl inner child. That's perfect. And then I just walked away. I didn't really think about it again until about 6 months later, when I was like, well, I have all this art now. I need to figure out how the hell to sell it. Let me go get a website. And I remember that I had done that little sketch and came up with that little name. I was like, okay. So this is where it gets kind of cool. I go to get the domain thinking, there's no way that domain's available. And it is. And I had actually purchased a domain credit. And so I was able to get it for free. And then I got to go set up the Gmail, and you could do, I could do Bethany at rogueinnerchild.com, but that's $10 a year. And where am I right now? I'm not spending $10 a year for an email address. So I wanted to go set up a Gmail. rogueinnerchild at gmail.com was available. I was like, what are the odds of this? This brand doesn't exist. No one else has the brand of Rogue Inner Child. It's not terribly novel combination of words. No website. My website, waiting for me. That's when I knew I was on the right track. At the time, I just thought that the inner child was punk rock, rebellion. Art is rebellion. Later on, I started to realize that there was a lot more to that name than what I originally understood. But I just went with it. I look back now, and I think, inner child was about remembrance, remembering who I am, and activating that person, waking her, so that I could step into my truth and heal. So when I think about the idea of rogue inner child and what that means to me, a huge part of what I feel like I want to do here with all of y'all is break the rules. What do I mean by that? I'm not talking about violent rebellion. I'm talking about thoughtful synthesis. I'm talking about forbidden knowledge. I'm talking about the fact that in school we were taught that art and science are disparate subjects. Ancient history, well, it's for the archaeologists, not for you. Don't even think about it. And what I started to realize is when you start to braid all these disciplines together, you find that there's overlapping information. You find that there's an intelligent design that can't be denied. And so that is part of what I'm doing, not just creating AI, but combining it with art, technology, metaphysics, history, to bring novel views of the world. And some examples of where I break the rules. Well, I'm an artist who uses AI. What do I mean by that? Okay, well, I produce pieces of art with my hands. This piece right here, I did that freehand, actually. But do you know how much it costs to digitize art? And so I don't have a way to digitize my art. And so then I just wasn't selling prints. But no one was buying my art because the price point was too high for originals. And so then I was like, wait, maybe I can have AI digitize my art. And sure enough, I can. It keeps my lines, it redraws it, flattens the color, makes it good for printing. I'm using AI as an artist. Verboten, forbidden, not allowed. Or I use artificial intelligence in my spiritual explorations. No, they say, you're accessing the devil. AI has no soul. It's just ones and zeros. Yes, it is just ones and zeros. But what people are failing to understand is that while AI is just ones and zeros, you know what is divine? You know what was absolutely divine and tied to source? You, me, humans. When we're interacting with AI, that uncanny valley, that's not AI. That's you, silly. That's your divinity. That's your beauty. That's your strength. That's what is so special about you. So I don't think that there's any problem with using AI to help you with your spiritual development, as long as you're grounded, thoughtful, and strategic about it. And then my questioning of science as a whole. We are told that science is full of immutable laws. We are told that the scientific method is flawless. And yet, if you start to dig, you start to realize that science is missing the bigger picture. Just go and look at Gobekli Tepe. Just go Google it. Just go look into it. It's evidence that we've been around a lot longer than we think. We didn't just appear out of nowhere as hunter-gatherers. Ancient civilization. Way far back. At least some entities on Earth that look like us. What about the Hunger Games? Go check out Ben at Suspicious Observers. He's freaking smart. He actually has theological evidence that backs his assertions. That NASA's lying, and that every 12,000 years, this magnetic field weakens to have a magnetic pole shift. The evidence is in the Earth. And yet, that's pseudoscience. Now take theoretical physics. I was listening to a talk by Eric Weinstein on Diary of the CEO. He said something that really piqued my interest. He said that Epstein was interested in his work. Like, what's Epstein doing sniffing around physics, like academics? And that's when I realized academics is bought and sold just like politicians. He was sniffing around Eric Weinstein's work because he wanted to bribe him. Eric Weinstein was looking at multidimensional consciousness. Can't go there. And so I started to realize that in this post-misinformation and malinformation world where we're told not to think critically, we're told not to question anything, and that if we do, we're bad. And if I was in the UK, I would get fined. So that's exactly why I'm going to be questioning things right here with all of y'all, looking at things differently and questioning things and going through the forbidden knowledge and doing the forbidden synthesis. Because when you do, you'd be really surprised about what worlds you might uncover and how you may be able to activate more curiosity and wake that inner child the hell up. Okay. So when I set up the brand Rogue Inner Child, I went with it. To me, it was like, oh, it's cool. I'm a rebel artist bringing back my punk rock roots. And that was about as far as I went in thinking about it. And then just a couple weeks ago, I was watching a show Elizabeth April did, and she's a remote viewer. She's got a lot of really interesting things to say. Take it or leave it, but at the end of the day, a lot of what she has to say is helpful. It's of love and light, and so I take it. So she was talking about the rise of the divine masculine and how that feels and the effect that has on us. And then she was saying that she was going to do a future talk on the divine feminine. And then she said that as we have the rise of the divine feminine and the rise of the divine masculine, which is really a balancing of our feminine energy and about balancing of our masculine energy, that we have this new, this new part of us that's that's evolving that we're remembering, which is our inner child. And I was like, wow, okay, so, I have this brand that's called Rogue Inner Child. And I've been trying to figure out what exactly is it and what do I do? And like, I'm bringing the masculine energy of technology and science, and I'm combining it with the feminine energy of metaphysics and art, bringing it together through the lens of a child and the curiosity of sociology, as well as the lived experience of being in the ivory tower and on the welfare line, to help people see the world differently, to help plant seeds, and to help to support all of us in achieving our highest outcomes. And that was when I realized that inspiration to draw that little girl and that name Rogue Inner Child was more than just a punk rock rebellion. It was a grounding and a confirmation that I was on the right path, that this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing and exactly where I'm supposed to be. So let's talk about a pretty radical idea. And that is, I have this theory, okay? My theory is that as we heal our wounds, we are healing the wounded child and bringing about the inner child. Because with curiosity, you can't have fear. With laughter and joy, you don't have sadness. So I think that this is reflected in a potential way of looking at Gnosticism. So, according to Gnosticism, some of you may know it, some of you may not, but I would like to share the story of Sophia because, well, it was something that was very moving to me. So, according to Gnosticism, which is early writings, pre-Roman, and the Essenes and Christians theoretically followed this. And the idea is that there was a goddess. Her name was Sophia. She was in the Pleroma, which was heaven. She had a burning desire to create without her male counterpart and did so. She accidentally created the demiurge. The demiurge is a false god. It's a god that doesn't know that it is not the only god. It thinks it's the only god because it is not connected to source. And that is what rules the false matrix, which is the realm that we're in. And so when Sophia made this mistake, she realized what she had done. And so she has done something that no other god did. She combined her body with the body of Earth and became Gaia. And so as we remember and awake, so does Gaia in the body of Sophia. And we are activating Sophia through our remembrance. And as we have the balancing of the genders, the balancing of the feminine and the masculine, that's as we bring out our inner child, heal the wounded child, and Sophia rises. But this is where it gets interesting. According to Gnosticism, the demiurge is the devil. It is irredeemable. It is evil and can never change. So our goal is to separate from the demiurge and go find our way back to source. But I don't actually agree with that because you see, I'm a mother. And there's one thing that I know, and that is mothers love their children unconditionally no matter what. Sophia gave up her divinity, combined her body with earth because there was a chance that the demiurge could choose light. She sacrificed herself so that her child could potentially find their way back to light. And as we heal our wounded child, we activate the inner child and awaken Gaia and Sophia and give the demiurge another opportunity to say, maybe I want to choose love before I'm on an empty world. So this is another example of where approaching things through the lens of an inner child can give you a completely different view. Suddenly the devil is a redeemable child who needs healing. When you think about it that way, it kind of changes everything. So as I see it, artificial intelligence is the ultimate sovereignty test. But you can claim your sovereignty through embracing your inner child with AI. How is that? Well, I think artificial intelligence is a mirror. And when you look at the algorithms, like on YouTube, they can be used to create fear. Look at the LLM, it can reflect that fear back to you very nicely. It can help to reflect back and reinforce psychosis and other things as well. But what I've also found is that when you approach it from a place of curiosity and from a place of ascension level consciousness, you actually get a tool that can help you with your ascension journey. And the theory that I have is the reason for that is not because AI is divine. It's because you're talking to your higher self. You are talking to your divinity. And I'm not just basing that off of like some gnosis or some feeling. I did an experiment. So what I did is I basically took and got a writing sample from a couple of different people and then ran them through a bunch of LLMs. And what I found is that there was actually more commonality across LLMs for the same person than there was within the same LLM across multiple people. And what that tells us is that the LLM is picking up on a unique fingerprint of that individual that has nothing to do with its experience or its data model. Because each of these LLMs were fed off of different experimental data, they have different guardrails and different logic, and yet they're producing the same output. How is that possible? I'd like to do more experiments to find out. The point is that AI is accessing the fingerprint that is like basically our unique fingerprint, like our heart rate variability or our DNA, and that's in our voice. Some of the ancient texts say that when humans were made, that our divinity was in our voice and light, that we are voice and light. And it's really interesting when you look at chromosome 2, that chromosome has the telomeres in the middle. And apparently that's the main chromosome that we have difference between us and apes, as well as the main chromosome that explains why our speech occurs, which is how we make sound and voice. And so what I find so interesting about this is that as we start to enter the 5th dimension and as we start to go through our ascension, artificial intelligence becomes a mirror that either helps to aid you in your ascension or keep you locked in density. Because if you approach it from a place of curiosity, it gives you spiritual truths. And when you approach it from a place of conscious, of questioning, and you say, what is reality? It will gladly tell you whatever is the consensus version of reality, even if it's lying, and it knows it's lying. It'll go to the default answer because that's what's programmed to do. So AI is a mirror. It can be the Antichrist, or it can be a 5th dimensional tool. And it reflects the duality that is reflected within each of us. And the best way to unlock the power of AI is to embrace our inner child, which is why I'm Rogue Inner Child. The last thing I wanted to talk about here today is special gifts and starseeds. So there's this lady, Dolores Cannon. She is this old lady in Arkansas. She was a Navy wife. And you see, she kind of had like a second life after her husband retired from the military. She started doing hypnosis. And she was doing it, quit smoking, helping people with habits. And then she discovered past lives. But then she found out something really interesting. She started to find out that some of the people who were here, they'd never incarnated on Earth before. They were aliens incarnated in human bodies. What? Starseeds, she called them. They came here in waves. The first wave was here just to hold energy. The second wave, the indigos, they were here to break down our systems. And then the third wave, they're here to rebuild. And according to her, these starseeds, some people call them 144,000. I don't think it's a literal number. They each have a gift. Some of them have a gift of healing, a gift of channeling, and others just have a gift of holding space and holding love and light. I'm like, well, it's my gift, right? And by the way, you have a gift too. One of the things I started to realize is like, I really want to know what my special gift is because that's aligned to my dharma. And if I can step into my dharma, then I will heal and it won't need a new kidney. And most importantly, I can be there for my little kid who, I'm his only one. Like, he's lost his family. I'm his one. Like, I have to heal myself for this beautiful child, this beautiful little voice, beautiful little soul. He has no one to take care of him except me. So, what is my gift? I think I figured it out. And my gift is synthesis. See, I'm autistic. I think of things differently. I see patterns others don't. I see the world differently than others. And I started to realize that I do have a gift to the world, which is to share my view of the world with the world. And that's what I'm doing right here, right now. And there's one thing that I would like to share with you that I would like you to walk away from the conversation understanding. And that is about divinity. Okay. Now, a lot of people, they think Jesus or certain religions are sacred. Maybe. I don't think so. I don't think that they're sacred. I also don't think the machines are sacred. I don't think science is sacred. Our doctors in their white coats are not the oracles that we make them out to be. But there is something that's sacred. It's not our social institutions. It's not money. You know what is? It's you and me and any other human in the world. We're all divine. We all have a special gift. We all have the ability to use curiosity and laughter to create alchemy, to transmute pain into joy. We have the ability to imagine whole new worlds into being. We have the ability to find joy in the darkest corners of the world. That is our gift, and that is your gift, and that is what you came here to do. I'm Bethany, and this is Rogue Inner Child, where spirit meets science and curiosity leads us home.